I still remember the exact second my hand touched the door handle and my chest tightened like the night itself didn't want me to leave. The music behind me thumped through the walls like a heartbeat I no longer belonged to. People laughed, glasses clinked, and someone somewhere screamed with drunken excitement, but I felt like I was standing underwater, watching life happen from the outside. I had perfected the art of disappearing quietly from crowded rooms. Slip out early. Avoid the long goodbyes. Escape before anyone noticed I was never really part of the celebration. For years, parties felt like theaters where everyone else knew their lines, and I was just the extra standing awkwardly in the background. That night was supposed to be no different. I had spent the entire evening smiling politely, nodding at jokes I didn't understand, pretending I wasn't checking the time every 10 minutes. My job had drained me. My savings were nearly gone. My father hadn't answered my calls in months. And the girl I thought I would marry had left me with a message that was shorter than a grocery list. Somewhere along the way, life had quietly rearranged itself into something lonely and heavy. So I did what I always did. I prepared to leave without a scene. But before I could open the door, a soft hand caught the collar of my shirt and pulled me back just enough to stop me. Warm breath brushed my ear, and a quiet voice said the sentence that would change everything. Stay until I'm done with you. And for reasons I couldn't explain, I stayed. I had seen her earlier in the night but didn't think much of it. She had arrived late, slipping into the room like someone who didn't need permission to exist. There was nothing loud or flashy about her presence, yet people made space for her without realizing they were doing it. She wasn't the center of attention, but the attention bent toward her anyway. Now she stood behind me, smiling like she already knew I would listen. We walked back into the party together, and for the first time that night, the noise didn't feel overwhelming. Somehow, walking beside her made the room feel quieter. Smaller. Safer. I didn't know her name yet. I didn't know what she did for a living. I didn't even know why she had stopped me. But something in my chest felt less heavy than it had an hour ago. And that confused me more than anything. For most of my life, I believed that change happened in dramatic ways. Big moments. Big decisions. Big turning points. No one tells you that sometimes your life shifts because someone simply refuses to let you leave a room. She didn't ask me the usual questions people ask at parties. She didn't care about my job title or what I did for fun. Instead, she asked me when I had last felt proud of myself. The question hit harder than any insult ever had. I tried to laugh it off, but the truth lingered in the silence that followed. I couldn't remember. Somewhere between responsibilities, disappointments, and quiet failures, pride had quietly disappeared from my life. She didn't rush to fill the silence. She let it exist. And for the first time in years, someone didn't try to rescue me from my discomfort. She simply let me feel it. It was terrifying and comforting at the same time. We talked for hours that night, but the conversation never felt forced. She spoke about small things in ways that made them feel big. She spoke about ordinary days like they were adventures waiting to happen. She spoke about failure like it was a necessary chapter instead of a permanent ending. By the time the party ended, the sky outside had already begun turning pale with morning light. And somehow, the night had changed something inside me. Life didn't transform overnight after that evening. There was no magical montage. No sudden success. No dramatic breakthrough. The next morning, my problems were still there. My bank account was still low. My job still felt exhausting. My family still felt distant. But something small had shifted. Hope had returned quietly, like sunlight slipping through curtains. In the weeks that followed, we started meeting often. Not in grand places, not in expensive restaurants, not in picture-perfect settings. We met in ordinary spaces. Coffee shops. Park benches. Grocery store aisles. Places where real life happened. She had this strange ability to make ordinary moments feel meaningful. A walk around the block became a conversation about dreams. A cup of coffee became a reminder to slow down. A quiet afternoon became proof that life didn't have to be loud to be beautiful. Slowly, she began asking questions no one had asked me before. Questions that forced me to confront parts of myself I had ignored for years. Why had I stopped chasing the career I once loved? Why had I accepted a life that felt smaller than my dreams? Why had I convinced myself that disappointment was safer than hope? At first, those questions scared me. They felt like spotlights shining on the parts of my life I wanted to keep in the dark. But she never pushed too hard. She never demanded answers. She simply believed I was capable of finding them. And that belief became contagious. Months passed. Small changes began stacking on top of each other. I started waking up earlier. I began applying for new opportunities. I reconnected with old friends. I even called my father again, not expecting him to answer, but hoping he might. Some calls still went unanswered. Some opportunities still slipped away. Some days still felt heavy. But not every day. And that was new. One evening, almost a year after that party, I realized something while walking home from work. For the first time in years, I wasn't rushing to escape the day. I wasn't counting minutes until bedtime. I wasn't carrying that familiar weight in my chest. I felt light. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't overwhelming. It was subtle and quiet, like a gentle realization unfolding slowly. I was happy. Not perfect. Not complete. Not free from struggles. But genuinely, quietly happy. And it scared me. Because happiness meant I had something to lose again. When I told her about that fear, she smiled in the same way she had the night we met. Calm. Certain. Unafraid. She reminded me that fear and hope often arrive together. That vulnerability was the price of growth. That life didn't promise safety, but it promised possibility. And for the first time, possibility felt stronger than fear. Years passed, and life continued to evolve in ways I never expected. My career changed. My relationships healed. My confidence grew. My world expanded. But the most important change was internal. I no longer felt like the extra in someone else's story. I had become the author of my own. Sometimes I think back to that night and wonder what would have happened if I had opened the door and left before she stopped me. If I had driven home alone. If I had convinced myself the party wasn't worth staying for. My life might have stayed quiet and small. Instead, it became full and unpredictable and beautifully uncertain. All because someone refused to let me leave before I was ready to stay. Before the story ends, tell me in the comments what part of this journey touched your heart the most. Your words mean more than you know. If this story moved you even a little, please take a moment to like the video and share it with someone who might need a reminder that change can begin in the smallest moments. And don't forget to comment and tell us which country you're watching from, because this journey feels even more special knowing how far our stories travel across the world.